Listen up. This is the Music Scene Podcast. I am your host, Dave Kudrak. Today on the show, we've got Whiskey Jim. He is a very popular musician around the South Jersey scene. He goes to a ton of open mics. He is also one half of the duo known as the Jims. His partner, Jim Brennan, was on the show a few episodes ago. And those guys are killing it around the South Jersey scene, so make sure you go check them out. Jim and I talked a little bit about, music and, of course, guitars. We also talked a little bit about parenting and stoicism, one thing that I did not know that we had in common. So listen for that. At the end, he's got a song called Too Old to Make Friends. There's a ton of shout-outs in that song, so make sure you're paying attention. You might hear your name. And it was a great time. I really enjoyed talking to Jim. Got to know a lot about him because even though I've seen him on the scene, we have never really had any kind of in-depth conversation. So there's lots of things about him I just did not know. So I was happy to get to know him a little bit more. If you're in the area, I've got a couple of shows coming up next weekend. On Friday, January 17th, I'll be at the bar at 1720 up in Chalfont, PA. I'm also playing the Bayard House on Saturday, January 18th. That's down in Chesapeake City, Maryland. And then, of course, we've got our open mic at Little E's Tavern that we have every 2 weeks. So that's on Sunday, January 19th. So come on out, say hi, and let's have a good time. Anyway, here is my conversation with Whiskey Jim. I hope you enjoy it. But I can just imagine myself go, yeah, and then my first ex-wife,
Wow, man. If you want to talk about making a guest comfortable, this is perfect. This is like, you should use this for everybody.
I do my best. All right, so we are here with Jim Marchese, also known as Whiskey Jim. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Dave. It's great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So I've known you for, I don't know how long it's been now. Maybe about a year, maybe a little longer. I can't remember like when or where we first met. It was, it was probably at Red, White, and Brew.
Yeah.
I know Leanne knew of you before.
Right.
And then I think Leanne and I went to the open mic at Red, White, and Brew, and she was like, oh yeah, there's that guy, Whiskey Jim. And I remember you opened up your case and you had that beautiful PRS guitar.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, she's a workhorse, man.
What kind of guitar is that?
So it's the SE80. Okay. And I'm probably gonna botch this because I'm not much of a gearhead. Okay. But I was looking for something that could kind of replace the Telecaster that I had. Mm-hmm. I was playing a lot of different music in a few bands, and I was looking for something that was, like I said, a bit of a workhorse. 24 frets, a lot of variation on what the pickup switches can do. Mm-hmm. And I had never actually played a PRS before. I was a Fender guy for years. And I just did a little research, ran over to Russo Music in Philly. Okay. And they were great.
Yeah. And Chuck said some really good things about Russo.
Oh, yeah. They're fantastic. They have a couple of branches in Jersey Shore.
I went to the one in Hamilton Township. Yep. And that's where I bought my Gibson J35 that I gig with.
Yeah.
It's great.
I mean, they're fantastic. The people there were awesome. Mm-hmm. So I test drove a few things, and the PRS it checked all the boxes.
Nice.
Yeah. So came home with that, and the rest is history with that one.
What made you go from the Telecaster to the PRS?
So I was doing a few different. I was in a few different bands, mm-hmm. And one that I was playing with, which was with a bunch of my old work buddies. We were doing all sorts of songs. We were doing some punk, some metal, some classic rock, kind of all over the map. So the Telecaster was great for a long time, but then once I started getting into that scene and playing with them, it just, I don't know, personally, it didn't really cut it for me. Okay. It wasn't really doing what I needed.
Was it like a sound thing or just like a feel thing?
You know what? It was probably my lacking of skill as a player, to be honest with you. But
well, no, I mean, I feel the same way about the Telecaster. I know a lot of musicians who love love their Teles.
Yeah.
And I get it. It was during COVID. And I went down to Guitar Center in Wilmington to try to avoid the sales tax.
Yeah,
and,
good move.
and I went down there specifically thinking, like, I'm going to buy a Telecaster. Like, I've always kind of wanted one. So let me just go down there and check it out. And then one of the sales guys came up to me and he's like, hey, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking to play the Fender Player Telecaster, right? I have the Mexican-made one. And he's like, yeah, sure. And it grabbed it and he's like, he gave me a few minutes with it and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, feel free to let me know what else you want to play. Just let me know. And I ended up, well, can I try that one? Can I try that one? And I had tried 4 or 5 different guitars, and dude like brought over guitar stands and just set them all up for me and stuff and plugged me into a nice amplifier. And just left me alone for like an hour. And I just went back and forth, like 5, 6 different guitars, would play it, put it down, grab the next one, play it. And ended up walking out of there with a Mexican-made Fender Player Stratocaster.
Oh, nice.
Went in there with the intention of a Tele, left with a Strat.
Yeah, so, yeah. Oh, that's funny. So,
and it was just like a feeling thing. Like I liked the way it sounded, but it just didn't bond with me for some reason.
Yeah, you know, when I got the Tele, I had sort of the opposite experience where I went in like you, I'm going to buy this. And basically that was it. I took it off the shelf, like went to the cashier.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I'm like, this is the one.
Right.
But my experience with the PRS was much different.
Yeah.
And it was great.
There's a PRS that still haunts me to this day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I went to the Guitar Center in Cherry Hill. Probably right before I bought that Strat. And I was just kind of window shopping. And I was like, I wonder what kind of guitar pedals they have out nowadays, because I haven't bought a guitar pedal in like 30 years, So I'm like, I wonder what's out there. So I went over to the display where you can try all the different guitar pedals, and they had an SE24 custom something or other, and it was like the green flame or whatever. Oh man, I picked up that guitar and I was like, oh. And it was used, and it was only like $500. And then I went home and I looked it up, and I think the retail price on it was like $800. And I'm like, holy crap, I could save $300. And it was in perfect shape, perfect condition. And then I think the next day, or maybe it was like 3 days later, I was like, well, when I get paid, I'm going to drive back there. And if it's still there, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
And then like 3 days later, I got paid on a Friday, drove down there, it was gone. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, man. Hey, that could be fate intervening, right?
It could be.
What's the saying? Don't discount the bad luck that saved you from your worst luck. Something along those lines.
I don't think I've heard that before, but that's very true. Very true. Cool. All right. So let's talk about kind of how your musical journey all started, right? So you had mentioned that you were in some bands before. So when did you first start playing, or when did you kind of first fall in love with music? How did it all begin?
So I didn't come from a household that was really into music per se. You hear of these musicians that, they grew up with their dad putting on like, Miles Davis or whatever. That was not my house.
Okay.
We were putting on the Johnny Mathis Christmas album, which was awesome.
Sure.
It was awesome.
Yep.
But my mom's brother, my uncle, was he was a director and choreographer, and I guess my musical journey started with show tunes and musicals and that sort of thing.
So he was a director, choreographer, like of what? Of like local
musicals?
Plays,
He did some local stuff. He did some stuff in New York.
Oh, wow.
He was he lived in New York, had this great apartment
like
there.
Broadway type stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's so cool.
It was fantastic. Yep. It was kind of a weird way to get into the music scene, and start my journey. And then I distinctly remember, listening to certain things when I was younger. We had a lot of Kenny Rogers,
me too.
A lot of Neil Diamond, a lot of Barry Manilow. Jim Croce was pretty big. Nice. Stevie Nicks for some reason. I remember that. And like I said, the Johnny Mathis Christmas album. So
it's a wide range.
Yeah. It was really great. It was cool to be exposed to all of that.
Yep.
And then when that uncle unfortunately passed away young, and we went to clean out his apartment, and I found this box of cassettes, and the two that I pulled out of there were Blondie, Auto American,
nice,
and the Ramones, Pleasant Dreams.
Wow.
And that like changed everything for
yeah.
me. You know, in between there, I'm sure I'm screwing up the timeline, but in between there, you know, I'd listen to the popular stuff on the radio, and I really got into just listening to a lot of music.
Yeah.
But I would say that Ramones cassette, Pleasant Dreams, was really the thing that kind of helped me to take off.
Okay. How old were you?
Man, I don't even remember. This is where the timeline gets janky. But when I was in 7th grade, I decided that I wanted to start playing the guitar.
Okay. Why?
Well, to meet girls.
Yes.
You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Like, you know, I was not a sports guy. I was, you know, I'm not an athlete. And I was like, you know, I need something.
Right.
I need something. So I started playing guitar, and I fortunately got hooked up with a few people, probably in 7th grade, actually. My buddy Rich played drums, and another friend of ours played guitar as well. So we threw together this band, and, you know, the only things that we could play were basically the Spy Hunter theme and
Peter Gunn.
Yeah, right. Like, but the beginnings to everything. We just played that riff over and over again, right?
Yep.
And so the Spy Hunter theme, the beginning to Blister in the Sun. Okay, yeah. And Bad to the Bone.
Nice.
So those 3 riffs we would just play nonstop and whatever. And you know, from there, Rich and I continued to play together for a long time, all through high school in different variations of different bands. And, you know, I loved it. I just absolutely adored playing. We put on some shows in high school at like the local church. We booked everything. We kind of set it all up. We got some opening bands. So, you know, that was a lot of fun. And then, you know, senior year came around, and we all sort of went our separate ways after graduation, and it stopped for a while.
Yeah.
I just stopped playing.
About how long?
How long did I stop?
Yeah.
Well, probably from the majority of college, actually. Okay. Yeah. And I was in a 6-year program at Drexel.
Right,
so
right.
It was probably a 6-year break. I would pick it up here and there, but
yeah, it's strange. I mean, just about everybody I've talked to on this podcast, with the exception of maybe one, all have long hiatuses in their musical journey. It's so. I thought I was the only one for the longest time. I mean, I took probably a 20-year break. Wow. You know, and yeah, just about everybody I talk to would say, "Oh yeah, well then I'd put the guitar down for like 10 years." Yeah, it's crazy.
It really is. You know, I think there's something about kind of what you think you have to do in life.
Mm-hmm.
The expectation that may cause that, you know, that hiatus. I know it did for me.
Yeah,
you know, I was like, well, this was cool for a while. But now it's time to grow up and be an adult and this and
now,
that. Now,
was your family supportive of you kind of like playing? I mean, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I assume since you kind of took it as a hobby, I would assume that your whole family, the people around you, took it as a hobby as well.
Well, so it's interesting. They're not musically inclined.
Okay. Yeah.
My mom's a great dancer, but you know, my dad was not a music guy. It sort of came out of the fact that I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't an athlete. Right, so I felt like I needed something. But they weren't really musically inclined. My uncle was really the only one that sort of went down that road.
Right.
And I'm an only child, so it's it's just me.
Yeah. So you were playing guitar in high school, but you still had full intentions of like going to Drexel and getting a career and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, went to school for architecture and found my way into that industry, and you know, I've sort of had a bit of a circuitous career on that side, but you know, I'm still in the industry, still doing that, you know, tangential architecture stuff. But I think after, it's just in you, right? You start to play.
Yep.
And even if you take a long hiatus, you still have that itch to do a little something. So after graduating college, I started to get back into it. Met a few friends at work that I started a band with. Mm-hmm. So we played all originals. It was a blast. We had a really great time.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we played, I don't know. We were together for a few years, and then we kind of broke up and then got back together for a while.
Right.
And then after switching jobs, I met another group of people. You'd be surprised at how many people in like the AEC industry, architecture, engineering, construction, are musicians. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I met another bunch of guys that I still play with now, actually, on occasion.
Okay.
Yeah, some of the most talented people I know.
Very cool.
Yeah, really fun.
That's awesome.
Really
so how long have you been playing all together?
All together?
Approximately.
Oh, man, you're dating me now. Oh, I don't know. I mean, you figure 7th grade, I was probably 13 at the time, and I'm not 13 now. So.
This is Jim's way of avoiding telling us how old he is.
No, man, I have no shame in that. So I just turned 50. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't think I'm 51. I'll be 52 next month. And I thought you were much younger than I was.
Yeah, well,
yeah, man, you wear it well.
You. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. So
yeah, 30, 40 years combined, I guess.
Yeah. It's, sometimes it's a little disappointing to think that I took that hiatus and didn't play as consistently as, now I wish I would have.
Yeah.
It's still great to be back into it.
Yeah.
And to be in this scene now.
It's great.
So
I mean,
good.
Yeah, everybody in the South Jersey area, everybody that I've met, everybody's super supportive. They're all nice. I don't think I know of anyone who you could really point at and be like, yeah, that guy's too competitive. Like, it just doesn't exist.
Absolutely. No. I couldn't agree more, and that's sort of what brings us to now. Mm-hmm. After many, many years, I decided to get back out there and do this open mic thing. And really, that all started because I was having a conversation with my daughter about confidence. Mm-hmm. She's 12 now, so she's probably 10 back then. And, we were talking about what it means to do the hard thing, to get up and do something that you're uncomfortable with, to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I figured, what better way to actually, walk the walk than to really do something. So got up, went to an open mic at Lunacy, and, was hooked again. It was fantastic. I met tons of people. I think I met Mike Nafis that night. Okay. Because he was sort of a regular there.
Yep, episode 10. Just came out today.
Yeah, I saw that. Looking forward to checking that one out. And then ended up at Death of the Fox, where I met Leanne, where I met Jim Brennan, and Red, White, and Brew with Reseda Band, and
that's a great crowd.
And, it's so much fun. So much fun. Yep. So that's.
So how did that conversation? I mean, I'm a father to 2 daughters, and I'm curious as to how that conversation. You don't have to give me all the personal details, but how did that kind of start and come about, and what was your daughter's takeaway from it?
I listen to a lot of Stoicism podcasts. Okay. I'm a big fan of Stoicism. I listen to, the Daily Stoic. Ryan Holiday does the Daily Stoic and the Daily Dad.
Okay.
And the Daily Dad is sort of a parenting podcast with a Stoic twist to it.
Yep.
And I can't remember exactly what the episode was about, but it had something to do with, teaching your kids resilience, teaching your kids that, it's okay to fail. It's okay to botch things. It's not okay to just turn over and say, forget it, to just be resilient. Mm-hmm. And every time one of those podcast episodes come on, I sit down with my daughter and I'm like, hey, I heard this great podcast. And she rolls her eyes and I was like, come on, Dad, again? Like, was this Stoic thing? I'm like, yeah, it is. So just sit here and indulge me for a minute. And that's really where it came from.
Nice.
So that that led to the open mics. And
cool.
Yeah.
Very
Next
cool.
thing, meeting this whole group and meeting you. And
well, it's a good journey to have, right? Like, I mean, I'm kind of the same way, right? Like I went through a relationship breakup, ended up getting divorced. And I was just kind of like living on my own for the first time in a long, long time. And, I think I'm just going to start playing the guitar to kind of kill time and something to do. And then as I got more and more into it, I was like, well, I'm just sitting here in my room, basically in my living room playing the guitar. I should probably try to go out and maybe try an open mic, And then I was like, well, if I do go to an open mic, I don't think anybody wants to just sit there and watch me play guitar. So let me try to learn songs and see if I can sing and play at the same time and all this stuff. So long story short, I forced myself to get out there. And man, I was scared to death the first couple of times. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And now I'm here. I am. I'm hosting this podcast. I gig on a regular basis, and it's all And like you said earlier, I wanted to come back to that real quick. Like you said, it never leaves you, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't, man. Like even though I took a 20-year hiatus in my own experience, there's just something about it that just keeps calling you back to it.
Oh, absolutely. Do you remember what those first songs were that you played at open mic?
Oh yeah, I did Too Close from Alex Clare, and then I did do an instrumental of my own song that's hopefully going to be released in a few months, called You Never Loved Me, but it didn't have words at the time. It was just kind of like this repeating riff over and over again. I think that was it. I think I went to, because I went to Fergie's over on Sampson Street in Philly on a Monday night, and over there you only get 2 songs. So I did Alex Clare's Too Close, and then that one original. And then I think the second open mic I went to was Harper's, and it was kind of a dead night, and I went there just with the expectation of only doing, I think I knew they were going to do 3 songs. So Max, the host at the time, it was like my turn. I think I was going first or second or something. And he goes, I need 4 songs out of you because there's hardly anybody on the list. And I was like, I don't even know 4 songs. I'll give you 2.5. So I did Too Close from Alex Clare, and then I think I did Let Her Cry from Hootie and the Blowfish. Because that was the first song I ever learned to sing and play at the same time. And then I did that original song, that original instrumental again, Oh,
nice.
And then I started to go, Harper's was 15 minutes away from where I live. So I would go there every other Wednesday, like when I didn't have the kids. So every time I went to Harper's, I wanted to come with 2 or 3 new songs.
Right.
And so that's what forced me to really start learning stuff. My goal was to never repeat a song at open mic ever.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. There's nothing like a deadline to sort of force you to get your head straight, get focused, and start to learn this stuff. Yeah. When I went to that first Death of the Fox open mic, I think I did, oh man, it's going on my head, Savory by Jawbox.
Okay.
Like no one wants to hear that. But,
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, it's a great song. It's a not a crowd pleaser, but it's a fantastic song, and it's one of those songs that I just always wanted to play. So I was like, why not? Here's the time. No one here knows me. And
Sure.
I did that. I did I Will Survive.
Oh, nice.
And I can't remember what the third one was. It may have been Roots Radical by Rancid.
Okay.
Since I had already been playing that in my band. And I was like, I'll do this.
Nice.
But.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of influences. I know you already talked about the Ramones and stuff. So when you started playing and like in bands, did you ever play out? Did you have any shows in these bands, or was it all strictly kind of garage band type stuff?
Yeah. So in the high school band, we booked our own shows. We did like a VFW. We did a church. And we actually played the Franklin Institute at one point.
That's
awesome.
Some
friends had a connection and put on this little like rainforest benefit. Okay. So we played that. And then with the other bands, excuse me, with the other bands, I didn't gig out all that much. And even with the one now, I think we played my block party a few years ago, but that was about it.
Yep.
We usually just go to the Boom Room in Philly.
Okay.
And I guess it's considered a gig because we
Right.
have our friends come and
I'm not familiar with the Boom Room. What's that?
yeah, so it's a rehearsal recording studio,
Yep.
right across the street from Kung Fu Necktie up in Fishtown.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a cool spot. It looks like it was an old, like converted, maybe couple of row homes or some smaller building, but they did a really nice job with it. And we go there and we'll play and
Nice.
get some beers and pizza or whatever, and some
Yep.
of our friends hang out. It's kind of
So
like
it's
a
kinda-
garage band,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. But
friends hanging out on the couch,
Right.
and
That's
drinking
cool.
beer.
So it's like a big party kind of.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, to be honest, I really didn't gig out much with any of these outfits, which is a bit of a missed opportunity, unfortunately. But
It's tough though. You know what I mean? It's tough
Yeah.
trying to get gigs. Were you an original band or were you work covers or a little bit of both?
a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So the high school band was mainly originals. We got popular in high school by doing a cover at a talent show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we did Gray Cell Green by Ned's Atomic Dustbin. I
Oh,
don't know if you
sweet.
remember that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But and then we basically just wrote originals.
Okay.
And then the band that I had in between was a little bit of a combination, and this one that I'm playing in kind of on the side now is all covers.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Any plans on going out with that band, trying to book shows and stuff?
No, I think we're all kind of busy. Everybody's parents now.
Sure.
And we're a little all over the map. There's one guy down in media, one in Philly, and two of us in Jersey.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
it's hard enough just trying to get the one like rehearsal reunion gig.
Yeah.
But I mean that's just sort of a fun side thing,
Sure.
Trying to now I'm playing out, doing some solo stuff, doing
Right.
stuff with the gyms with Jim
Yep.
Brennan.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's kind of been the focus at this point.
Yeah, so I was just going to bring that up next. So, you are playing out with you and Jim Brennan, affectionately known as the Gyms.
Yes.
So I know Jim was here already and told his story, but I'd like to kind of get your side. And so tell me how that kind of came about.
So Jim Brennan, I met him at one of the Death of the Fox open mics, and I don't even remember if I played that one or if I was just there to kind of scope out the scene. But we started talking. His name was Jim, easy to remember. And we would run into each other at open mics, and we always compliment each other on our set lists and our song choices.
Yep.
He always picked like these songs that I don't know. They were just they would come out of left field,
Right.
but
Yep.
they were like, oh yeah, man, that one.
Mm-hmm.
So we just got together after doing these open mics. What happened was he was booked at Core 3, and the woman who was working there at the time also called me to play the same night.
Oh, okay.
So we were looking to split it somehow, and we're like, oh, let's do a couple of songs together.
Yep.
At that point, I think we did 3 songs, maybe 4. And then from there, it just kind of
Nice.
ballooned. Yeah.
Yep.
And
So
now,
kind of came about organically then, right?
yeah, very
Yep.
organically,
That's
very
cool.
organically. He's really a kindred spirit in terms of what we listen to.
Mm-hmm.
He may have said this on his episode. I can't remember, but when you look at the Venn diagram of me and him, like we have these big circles, but we
Yeah.
actually have a huge swath in the middle.
Yeah, where there's an overlap.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So it's been fantastic. I mean,
That's great.
he's recommended a bunch of songs, and I brought a bunch to the table for us to play.
Very
and,
cool.
Now we're writing originals. And
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's
awesome.
been fantastic.
So now for anyone who hasn't seen the Gyms, describe what that's like. Who's playing what? And everything.
So Jim Brennan is on acoustic, and he probably sings 80% of the songs. And then I'm on the beloved PRS on electric, and I'll sing the other 20.
Yeah.
We love to do songs like I was saying, songs that come a little bit out of left field, but when you hear them, you're like, oh yeah, that one.
Yep.
When I was years and years ago, I used to go see this cover band with a few of my buddies called the Jim Roberti Band.
Okay.
And Jim Roberti used to play up in New York City, and I would go meet some friends up there, and we would go see him. But I'll never forget his set list was exactly that. They'd play like Sir Duke, and they played Overkill by Men at Work, which I totally stole from them. The whole reason I cover that is because of this.
Nice.
And I distinctly remember being like, these guys are great, and they're picking such a good set list. Like, this is what I want to do.
Right,
like, these are the songs I want to pick. So that's that's what we're doing now. I mean, we try and find those songs. I think Jim called them the song behind the song, right? It's not necessarily the hit, but it's a song that you know and that you love and you may have forgot about because of the hit is so ubiquitous.
Yeah. I remember that just reminds me of one particular song in my set. I think is like that, right? I remember driving down the road in my car. I was listening to the radio, and this song came on the radio, and I was like, "Oh my God, I haven't heard this song in forever." Yeah. And then I was like, I should probably learn that, So then I took a quick picture of like my radio so I could remember later, And it's Filters. What the hell is it called now?
Oh, Hey Man, Nice Shot?
No, the other one.
Oh, the other one. Take a picture.
Take a picture.
Nice, great call.
Yeah, take a picture from Filter, and I play it at every gig, and I want to say at least 80% of the time I play it, I can see some people go, "Oh yeah, I remember that song." Yeah. It's great. I love
it. They'll remember that it's Dave Kudrak that's playing that, right? Like, because no other person is playing Take a Picture.
Okay, so I know you're a big open mic guy. I think I've seen on social media that you've tried to hit as many as possible, right? Like all over the place. And then, as a lot of people may not know, you played an open mic overseas.
Yes.
So I know we briefly talked about it a while ago, but tell the people how that came about.
Yeah. So my wife is from Malaysia, and every other year we go back there for a few weeks to visit extended family and travel around and, basically just forget about life here for a few weeks. So on a whim, I Googled Open Mic Malaysia, and lo and behold, there's an actual site called openmicmalaysia.com, which is run by this guy named Sunil. So I reached out to him and said, "Hey, I'm going to be there for a few weeks." And he was running open mics at two different locations every Monday and Wednesday over in a place called Bangsar in Malaysia. So I reached out. I said, "Hey, I got these 2 Mondays open. Any chance I can jump in? I would love to get the opportunity to play over there." And he emailed me back immediately. I was like, "Yes, we'd love to have you. We'll get you in at the best slot, 9:30 p.m.
Okay.
And now I don't know if for all of you that know me, I go to bed at like 7. So so I was like, "Oh man, hopefully jet lag will work in my favor and I'll be able to stay awake long enough to do these gigs."
Yep.
But so I went, and the talent there is unreal. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of the best singers, performers that I've heard in like a local scene.
Right.
So, of course, these fantastic people are playing, and I'm like, "Oh man, I gotta go after these guys."
Now, were they local? Like?
Oh,
they were. You're
so. Yeah, they're like the regulars.
Are you the only white guy in the building?
Yes, easily. And it's funny because that crew over there is like a mirror of the open mic scene here.
Oh, really? Nice.
Like they all go every week. Yep. There's Sunil, there's a few other folks. There's this older gentleman named Mr. Ravi who like just totally rocks.
Very cool.
But they go every week.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of music are they playing? Like,
it's all over the place.
Yeah.
So some of it, they did some like traditional music. Some were like Chinese songs. Mm-hmm. But they also do classic rock. They love classic rock, like American, British, classic rock. Mr. Ravi did a cover of Crocodile Rock when we were there. That was like awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm feeling feeling a little better here. This isn't going to be like the scene in Rocky IV where he tries to win over the audience. It's so I got up and I started with I think I started with "I Want You to Want Me."
Okay, that's a good one.
The place went nuts.
Really?
It was awesome. I wasn't sure how it would land, but they really, really enjoyed it. And the other thing that they do over there, which we do to a certain extent here, is that people jump up, like no questions asked.
Really?
Like people, if you're playing a song and somebody wants to like get on the cajon or whatever, they will just jump in. Somebody wants to bring their guitar up and start playing. Like it's very loose in that respect.
Yep.
So I ended up doing, I think We're Alone Now, and I had a guy jump up on cajon, myself on guitar, and then another guy on harmonica. And afterwards, the guy on harmonica came up to me and was like, "Oh, that was a great set. We really appreciate you being here." I told him I had a fantastic time. He's like, "Yeah, that's why I opened this place." So he was the guy that owned the bar.
He was playing harmonica for you?
Yeah. And he was awesome. He was a guy from New Zealand. This guy Mark from New Zealand. Okay. And just, he was so hospitable and welcoming. The whole crowd was.
That's great.
And the whole open mic community there was really just open and welcoming. So had a great first night. Took a trip to, I think we went to Thailand at that point, came back, did another night. And the other cool thing was my wife Jolene's family came the first night, so we had the place packed with her family. The second time I played, like a bunch of her high school friends came.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was really fun. I had a really supportive group.
That's great.
Yeah, being able to add like international artist Whiskey Jim to my resume. Yeah.
There you go. That's exactly right. You ain't lying.
No, not at all. Not at all. But it was a lot of fun.
Now, okay, so you said you and Jim are writing songs. Are you writing your own songs as well?
Yeah, so the writing process for me is kind of weird because I've never written lyrics before.
Okay. Yeah.
Earlier I mentioned my buddy Rich, who I played in bands with in high school, and he was our drummer, but he was also our primary lyricist. And I think back to those days now and just what a fantastic songwriter he was and still is, but in high school, I mean, he was punching way above his weight class as far as lyrics go. I wrote a lot of the music, so that is primarily where my head has been all these years. And when I picked up guitar, it was the same way, So I've only really recently started writing lyrics.
Okay. And how's it going?
It's terrible. It's one of those situations where, I want to come out of the gate like I was Amy Mann.
Sure.
And,
doesn't everybody?
Obviously that doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's really hard for me to get past that. That this is it's like anything else, you got to exercise the muscle. Yeah, for sure. So, it has not been easy. What has been fantastic, though, is this podcast has introduced me to a bunch of different methods to go about writing music, writing lyrics, and hearing where other people get their inspiration from. And, getting back to this idea of walking the walk, right? This is very uncomfortable for me.
Sure. Yep.
But I'm getting better at being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I'm taking what I'm learning from this community and these other folks and trying to apply that to my own writing.
That's great. Is there a style that you're trying to mimic?
There's some of the songs that I'm working on now, I feel sort of pay homage to some of the folks that I really loved, either growing up or now.
Yep.
Some of the artists that I've been inspired by, and some of the scenes that I've been inspired by in terms of just rock music or music in general, right? Like I'm a big hardcore and punk fan. So that's not necessarily my style, but I do try and take, not my style of playing per se, but I do try and take maybe some of those thematic things and bringing them into my writing. Growing up on the Jersey Shore, you know, I feel like there's always that little bit of, you know, Springsteen,
sure,
a little bit of Southside Johnny,
yeah,
you know, again, right? It's just kind of in your DNA. And I also love different genres. Like I'm a big Brit rock fan.
Oh yeah, like
especially from like the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Like the Clash, or that
no,
that goes
like,
back earlier.
Like well, I love the Clash. Love the Clash.
But that wouldn't be Brit rock then.
No, I'm talking about bands like Ned's Atomic Dustbin.
Oh, okay. Yep.
All these bands that were one-hit wonders here.
Yeah.
But
are huge.
Had a really like long career overseas. The Wonder Stuff is another one. Echo Belly. Even bands
you're giving me some listening homework for sure, because I've never heard of any of these bands. Now I gotta go look them up.
Yeah, it's back in '92 when I was playing in that high school band. We loved this stuff. We were huge fans of these bands, and I don't know that we took a lot of influence from them from a musical perspective. No, maybe I should flip that. Not from a lyrical perspective, but maybe more from a musical perspective.
Okay. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, now I think some of that seeps into what I'm writing.
I think it's just a natural.
Yeah.
What is it, osmosis or whatever? You know.
Yeah.
It just happens because it's what you're immersed in.
Right. You know? Right. And then from a lyrical perspective, you know, I try to pull from the things that I listen to, the Stoic stuff that I study, and that I really love. I think there's a lot to be learned there.
Sure.
And man, you can mine that stuff for lyrical content till the cows come home.
Yep. I did a little bit of a deep dive in Stoicism probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty familiar. That the guy that you mentioned, I don't know his name, but you mentioned him already, the Daily Stoic.
Yeah, Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, I followed him on YouTube for quite a while. And
he's a big Iron Maiden fan.
Is he really? Yeah. Is he? But well, good on him, because so we got one more thing in common.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, like there's a lot of value to it, right? Because at least personally, in my days that I struggled the most, or the times that I struggled the most, it's because I could not really kind of control my emotions. Right. You know what I mean? And I interpret Stoicism as kind of just always kind of being in control, right? Yeah, and you're going to manage and handle anything that kind of comes at you, and you're going to do it calmly and peacefully, but from a position of like power, not a position of like being a victim.
Right,
you know?
Right. That's absolutely. And I mean, just even what you just said there, you think about, you probably could have wrote 10 songs from just that statement, right?
That's exactly right.
So, you know, mining that content for lyrics, for songs, for ideas, I think that's where my head is at now, as well as, you know, just looking back on life and seeing what, you know, how I've managed to land where I have.
Yeah. Yep.
Looking at things like, you know, what decisions have I made that have brought me to where I am now? How can I use that in a constructive and creative way, and sort of put it into a song, and, you know, turn it into something that maybe might resonate with someone else.
Sure.
You know?
Yep. That's great. It's fantastic. Anything else that you might want to talk about or let the people know about you?
I'm here in the South Jersey music scene. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Whiskey Jim Music. Playing with Jim Brennan as the Jims. You can also find our stuff on Facebook and Instagram.
So you're going to play a song for us today?
Yeah. So this is one of the new ones that I've been working on. It's called Too Old to Make Friends.
Nice.
And it's about the scene. It's about the open mic scene. It's sort of a love letter to the scene, to the people that I've met, to the places that I've had the good fortune to play, to the places that may be closed or didn't stopped doing open mics or for whatever reason. And yeah, it's. I was thinking about when we talk about influences and that sort of thing. There's this song by Frank Turner called "I Knew Proof Rock Before He Got Famous," where he sort of name drops a bunch of his friends that are in the bars with him and whatever. So I had that in mind when I was writing it, and after I finished it, I was like, wow, this is a little bit reminiscent of Piano Man too, the way Billy Joel talks about all the people in the bar and whatnot. So yeah, that's
very cool.
That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, I think I may have, and you've got your acoustic with you?
Yes.
I think I may have seen you play acoustic like one other time, but every other time it's been electric. So I'm looking forward to hearing it and seeing you play. That's awesome.
Yeah. Looking forward to playing.
Well, thank you very much for being on the podcast, Jim.
Dave, this is fantastic. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for doing what you do for the community, and for the South Jersey music scene and for everybody that's been on the show. It's been fantastic.
Well, I can't do the show without you guys, so I appreciate you being on it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, cool.
This is called Too Old to Make Friends. Here we go. I don't know anybody here, but Amy said that we're all friends, and I believed her. And it's cold and the streets are frozen, but inside it's as hot as Reseda. The music scene's an island of misfits. Jersey punks and indie rocksters line the bar, and we're standing on the edge of something. And it's not greatness, but it's what we've got so far. And I thought that I was too old to make friends, but I guess that I was wrong. And there's nothing in this life that can't be fixed with a whiskey and a song. With a whiskey and a song. Everybody knows the words to Empty Cups. Now nobody is a stranger in the crowd. And I'll jump in and I'll turn distortion up. So get ready, 'cause it's about to get loud. And Michael wrote at least 10,000 songs. Every one of them is better than the last. And we savor every second of this company before it fades away into our past. And I thought that I was too old to make friends, but I guess that I was wrong. And there's nothing in this life that can't be fixed with a whiskey and a song. With a whiskey and a song. In a second, every dream can fall behind us, closing doors and nowhere left to go. We're walking through the memories that bind us, breaking silence with the words we'll never know. And I thought that I was too old to make friends, but I guess that I was wrong. nothing in this life that can't be fixed with whiskey and a song. With a whiskey and a song.
Yeah, brother, that was great.
Thanks, man. Thank you.